If you really want to know who someone is, don't just pay attention to how they treat you. Watch how they treat people who have nothing to offer them. It's easy to be kind to a boss, to flatter a client, or to smile at someone whose approval you need. That's performance. But the real test of character shows up in the unnoticed moments: how they speak to a waiter, how they respond to a janitor, how they acknowledge or ignore someone society often overlooks. That's the truth about them. We live in a world where people can put on an act. They can dress the part, say the right things, and even play the role of kind or respectful when it suits them. But here's what they can't fake: their reflexes. When they're interacting with someone they believe doesn't matter to their success, their guard drops, the mask slips. And in those moments, you see what they truly value. Picture this: two people walk into a restaurant. One treats the server like a human being with warmth, gratitude, and patience. The other barely makes eye contact, snaps when the order is wrong, and acts as though kindness is beneath them. Same environment, same situation, completely different hearts revealed. Which one do you trust? Which one do you want in your circle? The answer is obvious, because how someone treats those with no power over them is the purest reflection of who they are. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever seen a leader who's all charm and politeness in the boardroom, but cold, dismissive, or even cruel to the people working behind the scenes? That's not leadership, that's manipulation. True character is not how someone treats people when it benefits them, but when there's nothing to gain. And once you notice this pattern, you can't unsee it. You start recognizing that the people worth trusting are the ones who respect everyone, regardless of title or status. This principle also applies in relationships. Pay attention to how someone treats the people they don't need. For example, a man who is kind to his partner's family, to strangers on the street, to people who can do nothing for him. That's not just kindness, that's evidence of who he really is. Or look at a woman who doesn't just compliment her friends when they're around, but defends them when they're not. That's loyalty you can count on. What's powerful about this truth is that it cuts through pretense. Words are easy. Acts of selective kindness are easy. But consistent decency toward all people is not something you can fake for long. It's either in you or it's not. And once you learn to watch closely, you'll see people reveal themselves in how they treat the so-called invisible figures in their lives. There's also something deeply telling about humility in action. When someone treats a stranger with the same respect as a VIP, it reveals that they see human value as equal. That mindset is rare and it's priceless. Those are the people who will respect you when you're at your lowest, not just when you're at your best. Because let's be honest, anyone can treat you well when you're on top of the world. The question is, who still stands beside you when you're not useful, when you're struggling, when you can't offer them anything in return? That's when truth comes out. This isn't just about avoiding toxic people. It's also about choosing the right ones. Surround yourself with those who treat the janitor the same as the CEO, who thank the bus driver, who say hello to the security guard, who show patience when mistakes happen. Those small moments are massive indicators, because if someone is decent when it doesn't count, you can bet they'll be decent when it does. I'll tell you this, the people who climb the ladder by stepping on others will always reveal themselves eventually. Maybe not at first, maybe not in the spotlight, but in the background, in those tiny interactions, you'll see it. And if you're wise enough to pay attention early, you'll save yourself from disappointment later. But here's the other side. If you want to attract genuine people into your own life, you need to embody this principle yourself. Don't just watch how others treat people. Watch how you treat people. Do you rush past those who don't seem important to your goals? Do you ignore those who serve you while pouring energy into those who can promote you? These are hard questions, but they matter, because the way you treat the least of people says everything about your own character. And when you live with that kind of respect, you naturally draw people with the same values into your orbit. What makes this so powerful is that it doesn't require guesswork. You don't need to dig into someone's past, or run background checks, or wait for years to see who they really are. You just need to observe, sit back, be quiet, and notice how they behave when they think no one important is watching. Notice how they treat those they don't need to impress. That's the window into their soul. At the end of the day, the truth about people is written in the small things. It's in whether they say thank you. It's in whether they listen when someone with less power speaks. It's in whether they see dignity in everyone, not just in those above them. And when you make this your filter, you'll stop being fooled by charm, by empty words, or by surface-level gestures. You'll know who's real. Because here's the bottom line: character is never hidden. It's just revealed in places most people don't bother to look. Pay attention to those places, and you'll always know who you're truly dealing with. If you really want to see the truth about someone, don't just watch them when life is easy. Watch them when life is hard. Stress and anger are like a magnifying glass. They don't create character, they reveal it. You can learn more about a person in 5 minutes of frustration than in 5 hours of casual conversation. Why? Because when people are under pressure, their masks slip. The polished version of themselves they show to the world falls apart, and what's underneath comes spilling out. Think about it. When someone's order gets messed up at a restaurant, when the car in front of them cuts them off, when life doesn't go their way, how do they respond? Do they lash out, scream, blame everyone else? Or do they pause, take a breath, and handle it with composure? Those moments are the window into who they truly are. Because anyone can act calm when everything's perfect, but character shows when the storm hits. Now here's the thing, anger itself isn't the problem. Anger is a normal human emotion. We all feel it. Stress is unavoidable too. Life throws curveballs at everyone. The real question is, what do people do with that anger? How do they channel that stress? Do they use it to grow, or do they use it as an excuse to hurt? That's the difference between maturity and immaturity, between someone safe and someone destructive. We've all seen both sides of this. You've probably seen a parent who yells at their kids over the smallest mistake, not because the child did something terrible, but because the parent doesn't know how to handle their own frustration. That anger spills onto the innocent. And what does it create? Fear, distrust, brokenness. On the other hand, you may have seen a leader under enormous stress who still speaks calmly, who still treats people with dignity, even when the pressure is crushing. That's strength. That's self-control. That's someone who's mastered themselves. One of the best ways to gauge whether someone is truly trustworthy is to pay attention to their anger patterns. Not their anger words alone, but their anger habits. Do they explode quickly and then justify it later? Do they hold grudges quietly, letting bitterness eat at them until it spills over? Do they go silent and use anger as a weapon of withdrawal? Or do they acknowledge the frustration, but refuse to let it poison the people around them? Every reaction tells a story. Every response is a clue to the inner world of that person. And here's the truth: stress will magnify whatever is inside someone. If kindness is rooted in them, pressure will draw out patience. If selfishness is rooted in them, pressure will expose cruelty. It's like squeezing a sponge. You only see what's truly inside when it's pressed. That's why these moments are so revealing. When you see how someone handles stress, you don't just see who they are in that moment. You see who they'll be in the long run, especially when life with them gets hard. Imagine being in a relationship with someone who can't manage their anger. Every small disagreement turns into a battle. Every inconvenience becomes an explosion. You start walking on eggshells, afraid of setting them off. That's not a safe place to build love, trust, or a future. On the flip side, picture being with someone who, even in moments of stress, speaks with clarity, listens before reacting, and works toward resolution instead of revenge. That's the kind of person who builds stability, not chaos, and you only find that out by watching, not what they say, but how they act when the heat is on. This principle also matters in friendships, in business, in leadership. Do you want a friend who disappears or turns cruel the moment they're stressed? Or a business partner who makes rash, destructive decisions under pressure? Or a leader who blames everyone else when things go wrong? Of course not, because those patterns always spread. Stress and anger don't just affect the person feeling them, they affect everyone in the room. And if you stay close to someone who hasn't learned to control their reactions, their storm will eventually become yours. But here's where it gets even deeper: how someone handles stress isn't just about discipline, it's about values. If they value control over others, stress will push them to dominate. If they value compassion, stress will push them to slow down and think. If they value ego, stress will push them to defend their pride at all costs. If they value growth, stress will push them to learn from the moment. So when you watch how they handle stress, you're not just seeing their reaction, you're seeing their core values on display. Now, let's flip it back to you for a second, because this isn't only about spotting others, it's also about looking in the mirror. How do you handle stress? How do you handle anger? Because whether you like it or not, people are watching you too. They're learning who you are by how you treat them in your hardest moments. And just like you judge others by this standard, they will judge you too. If you want to attract people of strength, you've got to become someone who doesn't let stress turn you cruel, who doesn't let anger turn you reckless. That's real power. That's real freedom. At the end of the day, stress and anger are part of life. If you really want to know the truth about someone, watch what happens when someone else wins. When a friend gets promoted, when a coworker gets recognized, when a sibling shines brighter for a moment, what shows up in their reaction? Do they celebrate genuinely, or do they shrink back into jealousy? Do they clap with you, or do they secretly hope you stumble? Because nothing exposes the heart like someone else's success. Here's why this matters so much: success has a way of threatening insecurity. People who haven't done the work on themselves often see someone else's win as their own loss. They treat life like a competition where only one person can shine at a time. And when they live in that mindset, your growth will never feel safe with them. If you win, they'll feel smaller. If you thrive, they'll resent you. And over time, that resentment leaks into the relationship in ways that poison trust. On the other hand, healthy people see success differently. They see someone else's win as proof that more is possible. They don't get jealous. They get inspired. They understand that your win doesn't take away from their own. And those are the people you can build with. Because instead of competing with you, they'll push you, cheer you, and grow alongside you. Think back in your own life. Maybe you've shared good news with someone, I got the job, or we're moving into a new home. And instead of celebrating, they got quiet. They gave a half-hearted smile, maybe even changed the subject. You walked away thinking, did they even care? Why didn't they seem happy for me? That moment right there revealed the truth. It wasn't about the job. It wasn't about the house. It was about their inability to celebrate someone else. And that's not about you. That's about them. But it still matters because it tells you something crucial. You can't expect support from someone who feels threatened by your success. Their silence, their distance, their subtle digs, those are all red flags. You may still care for them, but you'll know not to lean on them in moments of growth. Because if they can't celebrate you when you win, they won't stand strong with you when life gets bigger and better. Now, flip that around. Have you ever shared good news with someone and their eyes lit up? They shouted with excitement. They hugged you like it was their own victory. They wanted to know every detail. That kind of response is priceless. Because in that moment, what they're saying is, I don't need to shrink for you to shine. Your success doesn't scare me, it excites me. That's the mark of someone secure, someone safe, someone real. This is why paying attention to how people handle others' success is so revealing. Because it doesn't just tell you how they feel about others, it tells you how they'll treat you when it's your turn. And trust me, your turn will come. Someday you'll rise, you'll achieve something significant, and you'll need people around you who won't secretly wish for your fall, but who will stand in the front row clapping until their hands hurt. Now let's dig deeper. Why do some people struggle with celebrating others? The answer often comes down to comparison. When someone hasn't built their own sense of worth, they measure themselves against everyone else. If you succeed, it highlights where they feel like they've failed. If you shine, it casts a shadow on the parts of their life they're still insecure about. And instead of dealing with those insecurities, they project it onto you as envy, as distance, as negativity. That's why it's so important to notice this pattern. Because people who live in constant comparison will always struggle to give you the full support you deserve. But here's the beauty of it, the opposite is also true. When someone has done the inner work, when they know who they are, when they've found peace in their own journey, they can clap for you without hesitation. They don't see your success as a threat. They see it as a celebration of what's possible in life. Those people don't just support you, they multiply you. Their encouragement fuels you to dream bigger, aim higher, and keep going when things get tough. And here's the reality. The people who can't celebrate your success will often try to minimize it. They'll say, well, you just got lucky, or it's not that big of a deal, or I could have done that if I had the same opportunity. That's jealousy talking. And when you hear it, don't argue, don't explain, don't shrink, just note it. Because the truth is, you don't need everyone to cheer for you. You only need the right ones. So what do you do when you notice this in someone? Simple, you adjust expectations. Don't keep handing your victories to people who won't value them. Don't keep pouring celebration into empty. If you want to uncover the truth about someone, pay close attention to how they respond to boundaries. Boundaries are the invisible lines that protect your peace, your values, your time, and your energy. They are not walls meant to shut people out. They're doors that teach others how to treat you. And how someone reacts when you draw those lines tells you everything about who they really are. Here's why healthy people respect boundaries. They understand that no is a full sentence. They don't see your limits as rejection, they see them as guidance. They might not always agree, but they honor the fact that your life has guardrails. Unhealthy people, on the other hand, see boundaries as obstacles to control. They'll push, they'll guilt trip, they'll manipulate, or they'll test you over and over to see if you'll cave. And that testing reveals their true intentions. Think about a time when you've told someone, I can't make it tonight, I need some rest. A healthy person will say, totally understand, take care of yourself. An unhealthy person will say, whoa, you've changed, or so I'm not important anymore. One reaction respects your humanity. The other tries to twist your choice into a weapon of guilt. Same situation, two completely different truths about character. Boundaries aren't just about schedules, though. They cover every part of life. Maybe you've drawn a line around how you want to be spoken to. No yelling, no name calling. Watch what happens the first time someone gets angry. Do they honor that limit even when emotions are high, or do they blow right past it, saying, that's just how I talk when I'm mad? That's not just a heated moment. That's a revelation of values. Because if someone truly respects you, they will adjust their behavior to keep that respect intact. This is why boundaries are so powerful. They're like mirrors. They don't just reflect your standards, they reflect the other person's willingness or unwillingness to honor them. And once you start noticing this, you won't need to guess about someone's character anymore. Their reaction to your no will give you all the information you need. Now let's be clear. Testing a boundary once doesn't always mean someone is toxic. Sometimes people are just learning where your lines are. But pay attention to patterns. Do they respect it once they know? Or do they keep circling back, trying to wear you down? That persistence is not about love or care, it's about control. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Boundaries also reveal something deeper, whether a person truly values you or just values access to you. People who value you will want to keep you healthy, whole, and respected. They'll see your limits as a way of protecting the relationship. But people who only value access, who see you as someone to use, will be frustrated by your boundaries because limits mean less control. Their frustration isn't about you being too strict. It's about them losing the freedom to take without giving back. This shows up everywhere, at work, in friendships, in family, in romance. A boss who respects boundaries won't expect you to sacrifice your health for the job. A friend who respects boundaries won't shame you for needing space. A partner who respects boundaries won't pressure you into things you're not comfortable with. But the opposite is just as true. A boss who exploits you, a friend who manipulates you, a partner who ignores your voice. Those are all red flags, and they all show themselves in how boundaries are treated. Here's something else worth noticing. Boundaries not only reveal others, they reveal yourself. Do you keep your own boundaries, or do you abandon them the moment someone pushes back? Because here's the hard truth. If you don't enforce your own lines, people learn that your no doesn't mean no. It means convince me harder. And people who thrive on control will take full advantage of that. So part of this is not just watching others, but strengthening yourself. Because your boundaries only work if you stand by them. But let's come back to the heart of it. Why is this such a reliable test of character? Because boundaries are about respect, and respect is the foundation of every healthy connection. If someone can't respect your limits, they can't respect you. It's that simple. Respect doesn't disappear when it's inconvenient. Respect doesn't crumble when emotions run high. Respect doesn't vanish when someone wants something badly. If it does, it was never respect, it was convenience. So what should you do with this awareness? Use it as a filter. Start noticing how people react the first time you say no. Do they listen or do they argue? Do they honor it or do they push? Do they show care for your well-being or frustration that their access was limited? That reaction is the truth. Believe it. Don't excuse it away. Because if you ignore it now, it will only grow louder later. The beauty of this truth is that it saves you time. You don't need to spend years trying to figure someone out. Just set a boundary and watch. Their response will write the story for you. And that story is one you should read carefully, because it tells you whether to move closer or step back. At the end of the day, boundaries aren't about shutting people out, they're about letting the right people in. The ones who can honor your lines are the ones who can be trusted with your heart, your energy, your dreams. The ones who fight your lines. They're showing you they don't want a relationship with the real you. They want a relationship with a version of you they can control. And that's not love. If you really want to see someone's heart, don't just listen to how they talk to people. Listen to how they talk about people when those people aren't in the room. Because here's the truth, the words someone uses in private are often more revealing than the ones they use in public. It's easy to put on a smile when the person is right there. It's easy to say the right thing when someone's watching. But the moment the audience disappears, the truth slips out. Think about it. If a friend constantly gossips to you about other people, what do you think they say about you when you're not around? The answer is simple. If they carry everyone else's name carelessly, they carry yours the same way. It might feel good for a while to be in the inner circle, to hear the secrets, to get the inside scoop, but over time, you start realizing that being their audience doesn't mean you're safe, it just means you're next. On the other hand, there are people who refuse to tear others down behind their backs, even when it would be easy, even when no one would know. Instead, they defend the absent, they shift the conversation, or they speak with respect even if they have disagreements. That's not just about kindness, that's about integrity. Because integrity means your words stay aligned with your values, whether or not anyone else is there to check you. Now, let's be real. We've all been around people who thrive on gossip. They seem to light up when they're dissecting someone else's flaws, failures, or choices. At first, it feels like bonding. You laugh together, you shake your head together, you build connection through tearing someone else apart. But here's the problem, it's a false connection. It's not built on trust, it's built on judgment. And a connection built on judgment will eventually collapse under the weight of distrust. Because the same knife they use on others will someday cut you. The way someone speaks about others reveals not only how they see people, but how they see themselves. Bitter people speak bitterness. Insecure people speak envy. Angry people speak resentment. Secure, grounded people, they speak respect. They don't need to cut someone down to feel taller. They don't need to spread dirt to feel relevant. Their confidence allows them to honor others even in absence, and that's the kind of person you can trust. Let's take this into everyday life. Imagine a workplace where your colleague is always criticizing the boss when the boss isn't around. Sure, you might agree with some of their points, but notice the tone. Is it constructive or is it venomous? Because if it's venomous, don't fool yourself. They'll use the same tone on you the moment you leave the room. That's their pattern, and patterns don't lie. Or picture a family member who's always whispering negative things about other relatives after gatherings. At first, you might feel closer because they're confiding in you. But really, they're training you to accept negativity as normal. And sooner or later, that negativity will circle back to you. That's why you can't ignore how people speak when others aren't present. It's a direct line into their character. Now, let's flip it again. Have you ever met someone who, when another person's name comes up, speaks kindly? Even if they've had issues, they might say, "We don't see eye to eye, but I respect their work." Or, "We had our differences, but I still wish them well." That's maturity. That's emotional intelligence. That's someone who understands that your worth isn't measured by how effectively you can trash someone behind their back. It's measured by how well you can keep your integrity intact even when nobody's keeping score. And here's another truth. The way people talk about others is often the way they'll eventually talk to you. If they constantly highlight flaws, they'll do the same to you. If they exaggerate stories to make someone look bad, they'll exaggerate yours. If they can't stop complaining about others, eventually you'll be on the receiving end of that complaint. Which means their words today are the preview of your future with them. Pay attention to that preview. It will save you a lot of pain. It's also worth noticing the energy of these conversations. After spending time with someone who speaks negatively about others, how do you feel? Drained, heavy, maybe even suspicious of your own relationships. That's not accidental. Words carry energy. Gossip and criticism create an atmosphere of distrust and negativity. But when you spend time with someone who speaks with kindness, who uplifts, who gives the benefit of the doubt, you walk away lighter, stronger, more hopeful. That's the difference. And that difference tells you who belongs close to you. Here's the challenge, though. It's not enough to notice this in others. You've got to check it in yourself. Because we've all been guilty of it. We've all spoken words we wouldn't want repeated. The question is, are you aware of it? And are you working to change it? Because the same principle applies both ways. If you want to attract people who speak with respect, you've got to practice being that person yourself. Speak in ways that build, not tear down. Protect people's names even when they're not there to protect themselves. Because your words in the dark are your true reputation. At the end of the day, this keynote boils down to a simple truth: people's private words reveal their public character. You don't have to guess. You don't have to wonder. Just listen. Pay attention. When it comes to truly understanding people, there is one test that is more powerful than anything they could ever say, and it's this: do their actions match their words? Because words are cheap, words are easy. Anyone can say they care, anyone can promise change, anyone can declare loyalty or love, but words without action are just noise. And if you pay attention closely, you'll see that people reveal who they really are not by what they tell you, but by what they show you consistently over time. It's tempting to take words at face value, especially when they sound good. We want to believe them. When someone says, "I'll always be there for you," our heart wants to hold on to that. When someone says, "I'll change, I'll do better," we want to trust that it's true. But over and over, life teaches us this lesson: don't watch the mouth, watch the feet. Because the mouth speaks what's easy, but the feet walk what's real. Think about relationships. Someone can say, "You matter to me," but do they show up when you need them? Do they listen when you talk, or are they too busy scrolling through their phone? Do they make excuses, or do they make time? The truth isn't in the words, it's in the pattern of behavior. Words without follow-through are empty. They create confusion, disappointment, and false hope. But actions, they don't lie. Now let's flip that. When someone's words and actions do line up, it's powerful. That's when trust is born. Because trust isn't built on grand promises, it's built on small consistencies. A person who says they'll call you back and actually does. A colleague who says they'll handle something and you don't have to check twice. A partner who says they love you and you can feel it in the way they treat you, even on ordinary days. That alignment between words and actions is what makes someone reliable, safe, and worthy of your trust. But here's where it gets tricky. People often excuse the gap between someone's words and actions because they want the words to be true. They ignore the evidence in front of them. They say, "Well, maybe they're just stressed right now," or "they didn't mean it that way." And yes, context matters. We all fall short sometimes. None of us are perfectly consistent. But if the pattern is that someone keeps saying one thing and doing another, then that pattern is the truth. The gap is the reality. And ignoring it doesn't protect you. It only prolongs the hurt. For example, a friend says, "I've got your back." But the moment you face criticism, they disappear or join the crowd against you. That's not loyalty, that's performance. Or a family member says, "You can trust me," but they break your confidence and share things you told them in secret. That's not trustworthiness, that's betrayal. Or a boss says, "We value our employees," but their actions are cutting hours, withholding recognition, and treating people like numbers. That's not value, that's hypocrisy. Words without action are just a mask, and eventually, the mask slips. Here's the hard truth: people show you who they are through repetition, not promises. It doesn't matter how good someone is at apologizing if they keep repeating the same behavior. It doesn't matter how convincing their excuses are if nothing changes. What matters is what they actually do, day in and day out. That's who they are. And once you accept that, you stop living in the frustration of waiting for their words to become reality. This isn't just about protecting yourself from disappointment. It's also about learning how to build healthy connections. When you surround yourself with people whose words and actions align, life feels lighter. You don't have to overthink every conversation. You don't have to second guess their intentions. You can relax because their behavior is consistent with their language, and that kind of consistency gives you peace. But let's also be honest with ourselves here. We can't just apply this principle outward, we have to apply it inward too. It's not enough to demand consistency from others if we aren't living it ourselves. If you say you care about someone, but you never make the effort to show it, your words don't carry weight. If you say you want to grow, but your actions never move toward growth, your words are hollow. Integrity starts with us. If we want people to trust us, to believe in us, to respect us, then our actions have to echo our words. Otherwise, we become the very people we struggle to trust. This is where accountability comes in. When you catch yourself saying something, ask, am I backing this up? If I say I'll be there, am I actually showing up? If I say I value honesty, am I being truthful even when it's uncomfortable? If I say I love someone, am I treating them in a way that makes that love undeniable? Because at the end of the day, people don't remember what we promised, they remember how we lived. Let's bring this full circle. Words inspire, words influence, words matter. But words without action are like a house built on sand. They look good for a moment, but they can't stand when life tests them. Actions, though, they're the foundation. They hold weight. They leave footprints. They tell the real story. And the story you choose to believe about someone should never be written by their words alone. It should be written by the way their life moves. So here's the truth to carry with you. Listen to what people say, but trust what they do. Because when words and actions don't line up, believe the actions every single time. And when they do line up, hold on to those people because you found something rare: authenticity, trust, and real connection. And in a world full of empty words, that alignment is the clearest sign of someone's true character. At the end of the day, people are not as complicated as we sometimes make them out to be. They reveal themselves constantly, not in big, dramatic ways, but in the everyday details. You just have to be willing to watch, to notice, and to believe what you see. Think about what we've walked through together. You learn more about someone by how they treat people who can't give them anything in return than by how they treat those they want to impress. You see their real character when stress strips away their mask. You find the truth not in a single moment, but in the consistency of their behavior over time. You uncover envy or genuine heart when you watch how they react to the success of others. You understand their values by listening to the way they speak about those who aren't in the room. And finally, you know their integrity by whether their actions back up their words. Each one of these things is simple, but together they give you the blueprint to see past the mask and into the reality of who someone really is. The truth about people doesn't live in their promises, their charm, or their image. It lives in their patterns. And when you start to see those patterns, you protect yourself from betrayal, you save yourself from wasted time, and you open the door to building relationships that are real, healthy, and lasting. And let me leave you with this: don't just use these truths to evaluate others. Use them to evaluate yourself. Ask yourself, am I treating people with respect no matter who they are? Am I handling stress in a way that reflects the kind of person I want to be? Am I consistent when nobody's watching? Do I genuinely celebrate others instead of competing with them? Do I use my words to build up, not tear down? And most importantly, do my actions match my words? Because the truth is, while we are busy looking for who others are, we're also showing the world who we are. And the best way to attract the right people into your life is to live in such a way that your own character is undeniable. So pay attention, watch closely, believe what people show you. And above all, be the kind of person whose truth doesn't need to be revealed, because it shines clearly in everything you say and everything you do. That's how you win trust. That's how you build lasting respect. And that's how you create a life filled with people who are as real and genuine as you choose to be.